conditions.
Get started. Oh wait, I almost forgot something. Hit that like, everybody. Let them know we're here. What's happening, Instagram? Oh, yep, we're good. Excellent. People in here, let's see, chat room. Show me what you got. Hit the like. We're gonna time travel today. I'm not even close to kidding. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to jump straight into talking with the chat room today. What's happening, folks? Welcome to Hal Sparks Megaworldwide, the greatest live stream in the history of live streams. I'm Hal Sparks, and I will Hal Sparks the rest of the evening. I will be Hal Sparksing, as you know Hal Sparks will and can do. Also, I am under the impression that apparently the new AI algorithm, and you would think it would be my friend being named Hal, is reaching out its giant digital hand and choking the shit out of my channel. So subscribe is what I'm saying. Otherwise, I'm not going to show up in your business. Because I say big boy words and I talk about big boy stuff, and they're not quite sure they want it to be a big boy site. So it's fine. It's totally fine. Right? Look, it's their channel. We are here by the grace of the interwebs. So I'm on Twitch. I'm on Facebook, where we'll I guess we technically would have to find another way to be on Blue Sky. I guess I could embed the Twitch stream, something like that. I don't know. Either way, that's because there's no direct streaming to Blue Sky as of yet. But in the process of doing my show, I'm definitely ice skating uphill, and I don't have any big financial backers buying me a bunch of views to take a plunger to the algorithm. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going any further than that. Hi, folks. Let me know where you are. By the way, one of the best things you can do, share videos from the channel and also commenting under the channel like, this was great. He's a crazy person. I don't like him. It doesn't matter what you say. And that's why we love trolls and maggots here, because the algorithm works in mysterious ways, and it really only cares about interaction, which is why I'm no longer on Shitter, because that's how these sites get monetized and built. Just letting you know, including the dump hole named Rumble, which is where we're going to go for our first little jaunt this afternoon. Tulsa, what's happening? Isn't that where, who was it? One of the big TV preachers from the 70s saw 900-foot Jesus outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that said, if I don't raise $1 million, I'm gonna die. Oral Roberts. It was Oral Roberts. That's right. I remembered. Oral Roberts said he was driving his truck down the road and he saw a 900-foot Jesus that told him to raise $1 million. Now, I don't know if I would have slammed on the brakes myself. I would have, because you don't want to drive you don't want to upskirt the Lord. I'm against it. I'm just saying. Oral Roberts, I have to say, sounds like it sounds like Jimmy Swaggart's Tinder handle, but that's another conversation for another time. We'll get there. I'm not worried at all. Yeah, 900-foot Jesus. So let's jump right in. You don't have to look very hard, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, and like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc. Patreon.com/HalSparks if you're serious about actually persevering, if you have loved ones, family members that are going to need to make it through the next 4 years, and they're going to need somebody to be their guide who can fearlessly laugh in the face of the fates. That is I, Hal Sparks, the deep state, the Democratic establishment, and everything. I am everything Anna Kasparian hates, except trans people. I'm not trans, but I have long hair. That should be enough, right? All right. Anyways, I'll self-identify for a half a second, and then she can have a legit reason to hate me. Anyways, point being is that there is no shortage of stupid takes on what's happening in Syria. And let me tell you right now, Syria is a fucking blender right now. Anybody who tells you they know how it's going to shake down is talking out of their ass. And thank you, Francie. There are a bunch of people like, well, they're playing kind of chess, and first of all, it's on a giant chutes and ladders board where everything could just go and then it's all on fire. And there's maybe they'll stabilize. Who knows? But the country could just cease to be a country. Literally, it could be Syria, a Syrian Damascus as a little chunk of something, and then the rest of the country could just be sliced up by Turkey and Iraq and Israel and stuff. That's a possibility. It's a very strong possibility before they ever get on their feet with an actual government. And there's no reason to honor the borders that exist for a myriad of reasons. That said, what happened to Emma Vigeland? I'm going to go with Kool-Aid poisoning. That's what gets most of them. You know what I mean? But I don't know what her current problem is. So I can't speak to it directly. But when I've seen her kind of get out over her skis or take a long walk on a morally short pier, that seems to be what it is. Can't say. She seems nice enough. Don't know her personally. Can't speak. Anyways, so let's jump in real quick. If you want a really stupid take that, by the way, lines up with a bunch of other stupid takes, it's Jimmy Dore. So Jimmy Dore, yeah. So American flag on a truck. Lady, clearly Jewish-looking lady, is all you need to know. We're keeping a third. Beg your pardon. I was getting ahead of myself. We're keeping a third of Syria. That's what that apparently the Biden administration, before we leave, they're announcing this, and they've sent this lady, Dana Stroll, who you do not know, out to announce it. Apparently, that was it. U.S. not giving up occupied Syrian territory with Richard Medhurst. I don't know who Richard Medhurst is, but I'm sure that he thinks a lot of things. Now, I happen to have looked at, I could see the Dana Stroll name. They should have just cut the lady out and moved her down so you couldn't see who she is. This is CSIS headquarters. This is the study on the Institute of Syria or something like that. Anyways, so I kind of was able to look her up beforehand. So let's see where this goes, because I don't think it's going to go anywhere good because it's Jimmy. But what do you think it's going to be America bad, and especially Biden? Let's see.
Come see us doing live shows. We'll be.
Nope.
This is a ex-Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East. Her name is Dana Stroll.
Okay, she's an ex-Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, ex-Assistant SecDef, Deputy Assistant SecDef for the Middle East. December 2nd, this says. This is the post from Afshin Ratanzi. Yeah. This post came up December 2nd. This is, okay.
And here she is. She's going to tell you that the United States actually owns part of Syria.
You mean because of the blood price? Because they're controlling it as they, battlefield phraseology, meaning owning it, not we own it, but we have captured it away from ISIS or something. I'm sorry. I'm probably jumping to conclusions.
Listen to this. Watch this.
The United States still had compelling forms of leverage on the table to shape an outcome that was more conducive and protective of U.S. interests. And we identified.
She says the United States has leverage. You know what our leverage is? That we're illegally occupying their country.
Oh, by the way, Syria isn't a country right now at all. Like, if you're going to make this argument for the last couple of years, it's lame and ham-handed, but Syria isn't a functioning country right now. Even the rebels can't be called rebels anymore. You know why? Because you have to have something to rebel against. Once the government falls, you're not a rebel anymore, asshole. You own it. You might be a fraction force. You might be, a wannabe element of a newly formed governmental system, or I don't know what the fuck, a wing of a party of believers who think they want to take right? But you can't rebel, if there ain't nothing to rebel on.
Yep. That's what she calls leverage. They talk about it like it's a real estate deal in Manhattan. Here she goes. Watch this.
Now,
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Hal, this seems like he's jumping in on a secondarily, lacking context chunk of video that somebody put up that has maybe a dog in the fight, particularly, and it's on Shitter. So if you're still on Shitter, you're suspect as far as your feelings about Jews in general, but certainly the United States. And I don't think most of the folks that are on Twitter these days make a distinction between the two. But do you think this is maybe partly missing the all right.
So the first one was the 1/3 of Syrian territory that was owned via the U.S. military.
That was owned. So this is our leverage, the 3 leverage points. The first one is 1/3 of Syria that is owned by the U.S. military.
Well, I got to say, there seems to be she seemed to be making a "wuh" sound before you cut it off. Does anybody else notice that there was a "wuh"?
Didn't buy it. We didn't purchase it in a land deal.
And Syria didn't have control over it. ISIS did. ISIS stole it, and we have responsibility for it until, well, we'll get to that in a minute.
We illegally invaded their country, illegally.
It's a double illegal. So that makes it legal, I guess?
Against international law, and are currently occupying it. You know that?
No. It's not illegal. If you are not doing anything, I mean, by international law, and this is why Israel can invade the Hezbollah areas of Lebanon without violating international laws, that if you let a foreign organization or a terrorist group take over a chunk of your country and you don't do anything to get rid of them, then that ain't your territory anymore. And that's what happened with ISIS. And that's why, by the way, the Kurds helped us broom them out, and the Russians liked them there, because they figured they could set them up and drop them again. They could basically broom them out later because we'd already weakened them in other areas, and we were the ones cutting off their funding and cutting off their shipments of arms. So if we just got out, which is what Trump did, well, we'll get to that in a minute, because I have a feeling that this is the part that stuck out to me. This little thing right here, this little blue bar that says October 13th, but it's very, very small. It also says 2019. That's why the guy wrote throwback up there, which is what Jimmy left that word off. Throwback. All right.
Thing that everybody screams about what Putin.
By the way, does anybody remember who was president in 2019? It had to be Obama or Joe Biden, right? Because honestly, the Congress was putting together a working group like this, and this is the kind of stuff they were coming up with, clearly.
Putin did in Ukraine, now he illegally invaded. We did the same thing to Syria, which is right next door to Ukraine.
No, because, sorry, what's right next door to Ukraine?
Currently occupying it. You know that thing that everybody screams about what Putin did in Ukraine, now he illegally invaded? We did the same thing to Syria, which is right next door to Ukraine.
Is it though? I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, I would go look at a map, but I would be mad at myself for even going through the motions. Right next door. It's not at all. Not anywhere near. Maybe he corrects himself.
And she says, we own it. Do you hear the link?
Nope, doesn't correct it. Nope, he clearly thinks they border each other. But Hal, could it get dumber? I'm guessing it can.
Language these people use? That's called imperialism.
Yeah, but we don't intend on keeping it. Trump wants to keep stuff. Remember, he's the one saying we got to keep the oil and stuff. But America just wanted to broom out ISIS. And then, depending on your feelings about Assad, if he ended up if they end up toppling, which is indeed what happened, the Kurds would have their own territory protected from the Turks. But unfortunately, Donald Trump decided he needed to let Russia and their ally wipe them out.
Called hegemony. That's called chauvinism. Western show. It's every unbelievable thing. They just say it. It just rolls right off her tongue.
That's because she's not ashamed of it, because own doesn't mean the same thing. Like, we don't own the property. We own it because we've captured it back from ISIS that had control over it. She's using that terminology. That's where that comes from. Fuck me. All right.
We own a third of it. Here, let's do it again. Here we go.
Yeah, we know she used the word. The word means other things.
The states still had compelling forms of leverage on the table
Compelling
to
forms
shape
of
an
leverage.
outcome that was more conducive and protective of U.S. interests. And we identified 4. So the first one was the 1/3 of Syrian territory that was owned via the U.S. military with its local partner, the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now, this.
What? So we co-own it? What is it? Do we have a lease with an option to buy from our Syrian Democratic partners? Do you see how own doesn't mean what he says it means? We control it is what they mean. We have control over it. But the thing is, in an area where there are civilians, you don't control the civilian life. You own the responsibility for that area. And they own it in cooperation with their Syrian Democratic partners. Run that by me again.
And we identified 4. So the first one was the 1/3 of Syrian territory that was owned via the U.S. military with its local partner, the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now, this was a light footprint on the U.S. military.
You see how these people talk?
Yes, and I see how you have shit in your ears. A light military footprint. The ownership means defending the area. Now, look, in some cases, people like, in behind the microphone in this situation, sometimes they know that and they lie specifically. In this case, I'm guessing largely that that Jimmy has his dum-dum blinders on, that he just can't or doesn't know what that means in this context, that owning it, it's like saying theater of war and you're like, this proves it's all fake. They call it the theater of war. There aren't even bombs being dropped. I'm not even sure these countries even exist. You ever seen somebody who does conspiracy theories talk about that shit that way, where they're like, that's why they call it the theater of war, because it's all play acting. It's all crisis actors. It's rubber bullets. Those aren't even real explosions. Like, it's that kind of nutty dumb.
Mafia.
That is exactly how the mafia talks.
No, it isn't. They even say they control certain corners, certain blocks. They use the word control more often.
The United States is a mafia state.
No, it's not. And also, this is 2019.
That's exactly how the mafia talks.
Yeah, I think, which mafia are we talking about? Are we talking about like the Chinese mafia, like the Triad, or the Italian mafia, or the Russian mafia? The Russian mob, I gotta say, they don't do a lot of talking. They just, do a lot of spraying and pushing and shooting.
We own it. Hey, look. Hey, what's all our oil doing?
Own meaning we're responsible for it.
Doing underneath your land.
By the way, that's the way Trump talks, and Jimmy's up Trump's ass. Like, he is one of Trump's favorite suppositories. He's the French tickler of Trump asshole suppositories.
Huh? It's a pity if something would happen. You got a nice country you got there. Be pity if something happened to it, huh? Guess what?
No, you don't. Syria's not a nice country, especially since the Assad regime has controlled it. It sucks. Well, we'll continue, because I've actually watched her speech, her conversation.
We own it now. No, we own it.
I don't know how long this clip is, though, that he's playing, so I'm curious how far it goes.
And here's my offer. Nothing.
Well, then why would they partner with the Syrian Democratic Forces if they're offering nothing? What are the Syrian Democratic Forces, which, by the way, outnumber the U.S. military in that? Never mind.
Sounds just like the Godfather, because that's what it is.
No, it isn't, and you're stupid.
We're not there enforcing any rules-based order.
Yeah, we are, in partnership with the Syrian Democratic Forces, trying to drive out ISIS because they were wholesale slaughtering people.
We're not there providing democracy. We're not there.
Has anyone told the Syrian Democratic Forces this? It might come as a shock to them. Since they own more of it than we do, I guess. So we're like a junior partner.
Defending people from a dictator.
Well, I mean, so you don't think Assad is a dictator, or was, I guess?
We're the mafia coming in and stealing shit.
Then why didn't we take the oil for ourselves? For real. Why do we let them sell it on the open market? Why don't we just, back some fucking ships up and start, lay down a quick and dirty pipe because we don't care about the environment and just run it straight out to the fucking water and just fill the U.S. strategic reserves? If that's the case, why the fuck not? Oh, because we're not.
Let's listen to a little more.
About 1,000 troops over the course of the Syria Study Group's report, and then the tens of thousands of forces, both Kurdish and Arab, under the Syrian Democratic Forces. And that 1/3 of Syria is the resource-rich, it's the economic powerhouse of Syria. So where the hydrocarbons are, which...
Oh, and so the part of Syria that the U.S. military owns...
You guys, I don't even have to tell you this at this point, right? Like, it's, motherfucker. Does he not, does he have like a part of his brain that doesn't allow him to hear certain sentences? He only hears the stuff that excites him or proves his point, and the rest of it just turns into like Charlie Brown's teacher, just, right? He just can't hear it, and the rest of us hear it, and we're like, you did this. I don't know. Maybe he was classmates with Bongholio.
Turns out to be the economic powerhouse. That's where all the hydrocarbons, she calls them, that means oil and gas. That's where it is. And then that's also where they make all their food. That's the rich farmland, the wheat.
Not quite, but the hydrocarbon part totally is true. And that's why ISIS took it. That's why Turkey wants to drive the Kurds out, because the Kurds believe that they have a right to that land. They believe that that is Kurdistan. So that's why the Turks want them out. You know why? Because Turkey wants access to that shit. And Trump helped them get some of it.
That's the part we took over.
So that it could be preserved for the Syrian Democratic Forces and the Kurds and the Arabs of the area, so that, God willing, if Assad falls, they have something that, a value to bring to the international table that isn't just Damascus as a city center.
Richard, go ahead. Say what you'd like.
Yeah, it's just shocking, and to that point about them being a mafia, I always call NATO a protection racket, right? It's exactly like the mafia. It's
a strategic military alliance. I mean, the racket part, I suppose you have an issue with. What's CSTO then? That's the Russian version of NATO that you have to join at the end of a barrel of a gun. People can choose to join this racket that is NATO or not. They're allowed to pick whether they want to join or not. They're not forced to do it. CSTO, on the other hand.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if someone did something to your...
Yeah, he already did that joke. We know that one. It's the same one Glenn Beck does, and everybody's half-assed doing the military-based sketch with the Italians from Monty Python.
Country, right? So you better sign up to our program and pay us to protect you from us.
Sorry, I missed the part where Syria was offered the ability to join NATO, or we'd attack them. What?
It's, you know, but and we shouldn't forget Turkey's a NATO country, right? So,
The worst one, actually.
so when we say NATO-backed revolution, you got 2 NATO armies in Syria right now, U.S. and Turkey, in addition to Israel. And that region she's talking about.
Israel's not a NATO country, by the way.
And when I mentioned earlier the 1/3 of Syria, it's everything that's to the north and to the east of the Euphrates River, right? Remember, this is the Fertile Crescent. This is the cradle of civilization. This is where farming was invented, right? So
no, planting shit and knowing stuff grew out of the ground happened in like 19 fucking places.
So that's how fertile we're talking. That's how important.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have oral traditions for a long time before we realize other people were taking notes too. It's kind of like when we call what happened in Europe the Dark Ages, and China was flourishing at the time. You're like, I don't know if it was Dark Ages. It's sort of, you know, it's kind of like where it rains in one area and it's not in the other. When you're a little kid, you think the world is being rained on, and then you're like, oh shit, it stopped raining. No, look back, it's still raining behind us on the road. Oh, that's fucking weird. Remember that thought when you had it? All right, yeah.
And you know, Syria was a net exporter of wheat. So Syria had a surplus of wheat before the war. Bread was extraordinarily
before the war, 13 years ago.
Cheap. You know,
bread is cheap. That's why in one form or another, it is the essence of the caloric intake of almost everyone.
People ate well. So I'm not going to say the country was perfect, but
really, why not? What would you say is your primary? I mean, besides the death camps and the torture chambers and the you know, the killing room at the whatever is it, the White Building at the, hold on, I got to look this up now. Shit. The Syrian prison at Sednaya that they just liberated, and they're like having to bust through the fucking floor to get prisoners out of there because they've been tormented for so long. Where is it? Al Sednaya, that's what it is. Yeah, this shit. Well, get over here. This business, Al Sednaya.
It was getting better and better.
Oh, yeah, totally. You're right. It was totally getting better and better. Hold on, right? Where's this? There we go. I'm going to stretch this out so I can show it to you. Sometimes these little like window menus annoy me because you have to be right on it for it to, can we ballpark this shit? Okay, that's Sednaya. The red building is where everybody was tortured. The white building is where they killed everyone. Now, I don't know why you'd separate those two. I guess the idea is that if you're in the red building, you at least think you might make it. So you might be, if they move you to the white building and people get killed there, you just go down with a ship. You're like, you're going to kill me anyway, so I'm not going to tell you shit, right? So, yeah. And then this is currently what's happening in Sednaya. There you go.
They walked for kilometers. Pain from years of waiting etched in their faces.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying it was a perfect country. I mean, come on. What's your standard here?
Syrians from across the country are converging on the most notorious prison controlled by a regime which has now collapsed.
Yeah, but I mean, what's collapsed? I mean,
they're searching for loved ones who disappeared years and sometimes decades ago.
My brother was detained in 2014, and it was very hard to know where they took him at first. Then I found out he was in Sednaya. He wasn't accused of anything.
It's a story we heard.
Literally, these people are walking, after the government fell, are walking to this fucking prison. They let out some of the people that were on the first floor, the kind of like low-hanging fruit of it. But they, let me see if I can speed forward to what they're doing. They're going through lists of people that they found in the records that, to find out who's alive and who's dead and all this shit. And then they're just like, they got these workers in there busting holes in the fucking floor because people are being held underground in these like fucking dungeon areas. They literally have miner's caps on, because they're digging down under the fucking building to get these folks out. I mean, is anybody really? I mean, it's not perfect. Okay, nobody says it's a perfect. I'm not saying it's a perfect country, but they are digging under the prison for live people who are kept in windowless underground cells and sealed in, apparently. The very definition, I would say, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide, of imperfect.
You know, the infrastructure was being modernized the whole time.
Yes, it certainly was. They were reinforcing the foundation of the prison for quite some time.
New pavements the whole pavement's being redone, roads being built.
Absolutely, especially the ones to the prison sites.
Tunnels being, highway tunnels being dug. Internet getting faster, no more electricity cuts. I saw that with my own eyes, right?
So you stayed close to where Assad's family was, is what you're saying? You were in the main areas. You didn't venture out into the ISIS-controlled areas or the Turkish-controlled areas or the Kurdish-controlled areas, I'm guessing, or where the Yazidis were.
Every single year was getting better and better, and then 2011 just set the country back decades. Now you get
fucking 2011. Am I right? Obama.
A few hours of electricity in Damascus. So and you got sanctions. I mean, they destroyed the country, and all this area they're occupying, Hasake Deir ez-Zor, these are the governorates in that 1/3 of Syria. It's got all the oil there, and they put U.S. military bases on the oil fields, right, to really make you understand who owns it.
Yeah, because they have to defend them so that when the Syrian Democratic Forces take over, in theory, of that area, they have something to do. Otherwise, I mean, again, what do you do? What are you defending for them? Because the oil fields are out in the middle of nowhere. The cities, they can kind of defend themselves. All right.
They put U.S. bases with U.S. flags, and they do patrols and just steal.
So do the Russians.
The oil, and then they ship it.
No, we don't steal the oil.
Into Iraq, so they can more securely, evacuate the oil from their American bases in.
Yeah, what are they doing? Helicopters?
Iraq.
That's how they're doing it. So they're trucking the oil. Jesus. They're trucking the oil into Iraq.
And if you look at the companies that were extracting that oil, also based in Delaware, owned by a bunch of neocons, and just Syria. If you look at the top 10.
Sorry, which neocon oil extraction? You mean Exxon?
Exporters of oil in the world. Syria's not on that list. It's not like Iraq or Iran. It doesn't have that much oil, but what it represents to the Syrian economy is 1/4. So oil revenue is 1/4 of.
Right, and having ISIS seize that and sell it and use that revenue to buy arms so they can kill more Syrians seems counterproductive. This guy is I guess, Richard Medhurst. I don't know. They don't introduce him at the top of the clip, but he seems like he reminds me a lot of the tanky types we see in China talking about all the airports and the train stations, and they're like, look at how awesome this is, where they tucker their way around the country and point to big infrastructure projects and go, this is awesome. Look how shiny and new, and they're kicking ass, and America doesn't do anything like this. And then you go a block and a half away and people are swilling like cooking oil out of the sewer.
Of the government's revenue. That's how big and how important it was. And Syria, as a socialist country, you got free education, you got free healthcare. Mm-hmm. All of that is subsidized by the government. So by stealing the oil and stealing the crops, you're directly depriving Syria of that revenue.
Well, Alawites and the ruling Arabs, not Syria in general. It might shock people to find out that education stuff and that healthcare stuff doesn't really make its way to the mountains.
And the Syrian people of their human.
It's like 3 fucking cities.
Rights and their standard of living. So, Syria also was growing lentils, cotton, you name it. All right. So a lot of it was very.
Spaghetti trees? Do they have spaghetti? You said name it.
Self-sufficient in a lot of ways, and you can see what Gaddafi did with his country. How stable it was. He made it the most successful country in Africa, the richest. And again,
which not suspect at all, considering the level of output.
You can't deny that there was improvement in the country. You can't deny it.
Like I said, I think these people would let's just say, agree to disagree.
And these people want to deny it so they can justify putting nut jobs and head choppers from Al-Qaeda in power. Well, I'm sorry, but you...
Yeah, head choppers from Al-Qaeda in power. That's what they're talking about, the rebels that have just taken over. I don't know where the fuck this guy is. I mean, I guess the theory is that where he's in Homs or something like that. Is he still in country, or he's just in a nearby country? It doesn't say live from. That's why I try and put on when Phil is with us, like live from Kyiv or Ukraine, when I talk about it, because it's kind of important to know.
You know, you can't do...
It's like when Glenn Beck said he was in fucking Afghanistan and he was really like in a nice hotel in Abu Dhabi.
Me, I was there, I saw it,
was, Cutter.
And the country was getting better, and now they talk about it like it's a piece of real estate. It's disgusting, honestly.
And just to remind people before we wrecked Libya, that Gaddafi had same thing. Everybody had education, everybody had healthcare, everybody had housing.
Totally. I mean, it was amazing. It was like a glowing utopia. Why didn't you move there, Jimmy?
They had a good economy. In fact, he even turned the desert into farmland, which with a waterway system that was considered the eighth wonder of the world. Gaddafi did that. And then what?
After what? I think the Chinese would disagree, because every thing they have built in the last 25 years, they consider there's like 17 of them, the eighth wonder of the world. Also gibberish.
We bombed it with depleted uranium bombs. And so we wrecked it.
Yeah, why didn't we use real uranium? Why did we wait till it was depleted? I don't think we were committed.
Just like we wrecked Syria.
We did? I think the head chopping Al-Qaeda guys would like a word, because they want credit for it.
Just like we wrecked Iraq.
Yeah, Iraq is a wreck right now. It was so much better when Saddam was running things.
Just like we're going to try to wreck Iran.
Are we? I mean, again, what's the definition of try to wreck?
So
why wouldn't we be able to do it? I mean, if we're committed to taking the resources of these countries, and we're a totally imperialist country, and that's all we do, why would we try? Wouldn't we just do it, right? Is there a reason we're handing these territories back over to people? What the fuck?
So, this is your country. This is, and nobody, do you remember voting for us to go to war with Syria? Because we didn't. They're doing all this.
No.
Yeah, Syria didn't control that area when we went in at all. It was perceived as part of the ISIS caliphate. That was kind of the point, and they were going to bleed across.
Under what's called the AUMF, which is after 9/11, the Congress passed an authorization for the use of military force, and that was so the president could go find the people who did 9/11, no matter where they were in the world. So they could be anywhere. They could be in Afghanistan, they could be in Iraq, they could be in Libya, they could be in Syria, they could be in Somalia, they could be in the Sudan. Wherever they are, the United States is bombing under the AUMF as if we're fighting the people who did 9/11. Syria had nothing to do with 9/11, but
the area that we were in was controlled by Al-Qaeda and then ISIS, and this is so stupid.
Using that same authorization to occupy, invade illegally, occupy, and wreck a country. Same thing.
How do you wreck it? It's already wrecked. That area was already claimed as part of the caliphate. The Syrians themselves couldn't take control of it. And when it was freed, it was not taken over by the Syrian army. It was taken over by the Syrian Democratic Forces and the Kurds and the people who actually are indigenous to the area that had been put down by the Syrian government for a long time. I'm starting to think that the Middle East in and of itself is kind of a murky gray zone of interests.
We're doing that everywhere. That's what they're
No, we're not.
using.
Yeah.
And so so Congress never has to vote to go to war. A president never has to declare war.
Well, sure they do. If we're declaring war against a particular country. And we can enter with the permission of the country or as a part of a collaborative effort, because somebody doesn't have to let us in to do it if it bleeds over from Iraq and you can't even tell where the border starts, which is how a lot of that shit's happened, the same way the Russians got in.
We could just have endless wars. And this is what Trump, when he ran in 2016, was to stop this stuff.
Then why is that lady talking in 2019?
Trump ran to stop this stuff.
No, he did not. He ran
He said
to
we need to
keep
get
the
out of
oil.
the Middle East and
He said we should keep the oil.
let people take care of their own countries. And that's why
Where's that quote? We should get out of the Middle East and let people take care of their own countries. Please show that clip.
this war machine did Russiagate on Donald Trump because he ran as an anti-interventionist. He exposed them, their game. And for all of Donald Trump's flaws, which he has many,
Do you really believe that, though? I would offer an example. Otherwise, most of us just think, again, that you've burrowed up his ass and you find it comfy.
that's why they hated him. If you listen to CNN, they'll tell you they hate Donald Trump because
Okay, is he playing any more of this lady? I guess he is. Hold on. Okay.
he's in Washington. We're there, United States of
Yeah.
Syria. That's where
Yeah, I don't
get
care.
this occupation, and now there's no government there anymore.
Hold on.
Let me get her. No one's going to say what. When did you buy it? Why do you get to own it?
Okay, yeah, he's still stuck on the word own.
Is there a UN resolution saying you own it? No, quite the opposite.
There's a UN resolution saying America does not own a third of Syria.
That's an illegal invasion. It's a legal occupation.
No, it isn't, because we're not occupying it.
And now there's no government there anymore.
Well, then I guess you can't violate the territorial integrity of a country that doesn't exist. Sounds like Syria is more of a nickname these days.
Let me just show you this. So now, get this. This is the new headline, Richard. I don't know if it says U.S. after the United States got in bed with ISIS and Al Qaeda, legit to overthrow the person running Syria is now the head of Al Qaeda.
No, he isn't. No. He was put in place by al-Baghdadi to run ISIS there, the al-Nusra Front, and he thought ISIS was too extreme, especially as they continued on. So he sided with al-Qaeda and did a breakaway. Then his organization broke away from al-Qaeda and wanted to be a moderating force in the area and work with the Syrian Democratic Forces. And this is over the course of like 12 fucking years. He's not the head of al-Qaeda.
U.S. pounds ISIS camp in Syria after Assad flees.
They pounded the fleas first.
There
Yeah, I
should.
find that hard to believe.
This is not. I don't believe this either.
Why?
It says there should be no doubt we will not allow ISIS to reconstitute. A top general said. Well, let me just read you a few paragraphs from this story from Political. Which
Okay, first, fuck that. He's just going to wrap this up. This is the lady he was talking about. This is from October 31st, 2019. This is the actual thing that he was playing, that somebody posted a clip of, and he bounced this whole shit off of that. And this is I'm fairly certain I have this teed up right. That
approached.
Yeah, that they did. So this is about the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and they're talking about Syria in the gray zone, and they're talking about the murky aspects of what's going on there and how it's stabilized. And if anybody remembers, this is right after Trump gave 2 of our bases to Russia, backed out of there, and let the Kurds get slaughtered. Remember that? Okay, so they did this whole working group for the Congress. The Congress put this thing together and said, we need a working group to figure out what the fuck is going on in Syria. There's another one happening right now because they're just gathering intel and trying to make sense of it and I'm not even sure you can right now. So check this out. This is what, like, her whole remarks.
Strategy, or is it more at the tactical level?
Well, in the case of Iran, certainly the Iranians have shown themselves adaptable to the local context. So what they're doing, for example, in the Deir ez-Zor area is different from how they've approached communities in southern Syria, which is different from how they've approached communities in the suburbs of Damascus. Different communities need different things, have experienced different levels of conflict.
This is where the Iranians are trying to gain control of certain areas and undermine. Hold on, let me see if I can bring this up as well, because it's kind of crucial. Yeah, I'll just grab it on here. So the long and short of it is, yeah. So, I think I got this. And then, whoops. Okay, yeah. So this is about Idlib. Hold on. Agree. All right. So just so you know, I'm gonna open this up and here, just to catch people up on shit. So, Iran is Shia. Shia Islam is the official state religion and the dominant sect of Islam in Iran. Iran has the largest Shia majority in the world, which is about 90% of the population identifying that way. Now, you can't not, so you probably keep it to yourself, even if you believe otherwise. It's that kind of situation. Meanwhile, the Saudis are Sunni, as are most of the controlling people in Syria. So their largest group is Sunni. And so Iran, in trying to undermine the government there and undermine the control structure there, is trying to move in with Shia forces. That includes Al-Qaeda and ISIS and the like, and undermine the Sunni countries. They're doing this in multiple countries. This is where the spread of effectively post 9/11 terrorist linked groups came from, was this kind of Shias taking a more active, violent role back, against Sunni. And this has a lot to do, I suppose, with it would seem that the Saudi royal family has control over the two biggest sites in Islam, and you've got to do what they say to have access to it and the like. And so to make the pilgrimage that you must make, you have to kowtow to the Sunnis, which I'm sure they don't like. So don't appreciate.
As it relates to the broader conflict, and so the Iranians are adaptable. Yeah. What do you feel?
No, I think it's a good question, and I don't know that we know the answer. Yeah. It's easy to assume.
Maybe this is
what
earlier.
It's doing in Syria is entirely in the gray zone. Two great examples are Russia, through its Security Council seat at the UN Security Council.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'll back up.
I was the director for several Middle Eastern
the
Syria.
Since we're talking about Russia and Iran and gray zone activities, one question we worked to tackle in the deliberations of our group is about the alliance between Russia and Iran in Syria, and are there vulnerabilities or...
And by the way, you started to get a grasp on why they picked the clip that they did from this and not this stuff, and how even back in 2019 during Trump, they were talking about the alliance between Russia and Iran trying to undermine the Sunnis in the country, not just because Assad is an Alawite. He's not even Sunni. So they don't need to bump him out of the way. But the substructure, the deep state of Syria, if you will, is all Sunni.
Fractures or tensions.
And all the people who fled.
Could be exploited by the United States to divide them and then move forward with a better outcome for Syria. And our conclusion...
Did you hear that?
Abilities or fractures or tensions that could be exploited by the United States
between Russia and Iran
to divide them and then move forward with a better outcome for Syria. And our conclusion was no.
Obviously, Syria is a 51st state.
Not at this time. That what unites Russia and Iran in their commitment to the survival of Assad regime and his commitment to retake Syrian territory.
How'd that work out?
Is much stronger than any of the tensions that are dividing the two entities at this point in time. Mm-hmm. In terms of gray zone activities, other than Russia's overt kinetic military support for the Assad regime, what it's doing in Syria is entirely in the gray zone. Two great examples are Russia, through its Security Council seat at the UN Security Council, consistently blocks efforts to have truth-telling commissions, fact-finding commissions on things, for example, like use of chemical weapons, commission of war crimes, etc. So,
right, you're starting to get a picture, ladies and gentlemen, of our dear friends in 2019 in the age of early Tulsi Gabbard.
Russia.
Oh, could you explain Alawite? Yeah. So Alawites are like a mystical form of Islam. Let's see if I can see if Alawites. Yeah, there we go. See something that's not too overly complicated. Alawites are here you go. I mean, it's there. Oh, shit, I gotta shrink this down a little bit. Are followers of Alawism. That might shock you, but they're an Arab minority religious group that lived primarily in the Levant, which is, if you'll know that, like ISIS was often called locally, not just Daesh, which was a slang for them, but ISIL instead of ISIS, which was, Islamic State in the Levant. Okay, that's the area around Syria and the northern areas surrounding that area, on top of and Iraq and stuff. This is the area we're talking about that they took over, that ISIL took over that area of Syria. Okay, that's the Levant. And follow the esoteric sect of Islam called Alawism, a religious sect that splintered from early Shia, which is why they think they can undermine the Sunni part of it and kind of align with them and just give them a sign off. The Alawites, Venerable Ali ibn Abi Talib, the first imam in the Twelver school, was a physical manifestation of God. So they are much closer to sort of like Koresh or Jim Jones or somebody like that, or a cult that actually believes that their physical leader, their living person, is actually God, not God's prophet, which is what Muhammad would be, or the Son of God in the case of Jesus Christ, but he's actually God in the flesh, specifically. The group was founded by Ibn Nisayr in the 9th century. He was a disciple of the Twelver Imam, and so Alawites are all called Nusayras. And also, and there's a lot of the loopy language around this, around Syrian, Osiris, you can see where the language mixes. Yes, it's very much a cult in that regard. Surveys suggest Alawites represent an important portion of the Syrian population, or a significant minority in the Hittite province of Turkey and northern Lebanon, which is, again, all of this overlapping kind of area in the control structure of Syria. There's also a population living in the village of Gajar in the Golan Heights, which Israel has now seized and is saying is permanently part of their territory. And there are two Alawite villages, Ein Fit and Zahura, before the Six-Day War, and then they formed the dominant religious group on the Syrian coast and towns near the coast. Again, they ended up with the money, and which is also inhabited by Sunnis, Christians, and Ismailis. There's I think Syria's 10% Christian. There's more of a mix there. Again, one of the things that there's a bunch of Islamic and Abrahamic minorities through a bunch of these areas that formed alliances against the Shia encroachment. Okay, so the Shias are more the Sunnis were the ones that were branching out. When you hear stories of the Sunnis sitting down with someone and they meet someone from Europe and show them algebra, and they're like, look, we have this deep abiding history, and they can argue philosophy with you, and there's no blades drawn. That would be the Sunni side of things in a lot of ways. And the Shia, on the other hand, took another path. And so a lot of them, the Sunnis, the Christians, the Ismailis, and the Alawites, kind of in the Syrian areas and in the Golan Heights and near Israel, which was, again, one of the reasons it was called Palestine, was because it was a nondescript area. There are no Palestinians, as it were. Nobody's ethnically Palestinian in that regard. That can't be also Jewish, also Arab, right? They're not. It's not the superseding thing. It's a description of the area, right? Yes, it'll be on the test. But the point being is that they all group together in that part of the area, and the Iranians have been trying to reclaim big chunks of that back over time. Okay, so that's kind of if that helps. The Alawites are think of them as the Mormons of Shia Islam, except they don't recruit.
consistently at the UN Security Council and in deliberations across UN bodies like the Organization for the Prevention of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, will block international bodies from undertaking those fact-finding missions, block international bodies from assigning complicity for the commission of war crimes, for the use.
See, isn't it funny how this isn't the part that Jimmy jumped on with that other dickhead? Isn't that curious to anybody?
Use of chemical weapons. So it's basically, no, this didn't happen, look over there, somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like, think of it as Russia is for Syria what Jim Jordan is to OSU and sexual assault.
Another great example of Russian operations in the gray zone are its use of mercenaries like the Wagner.
Wagner. They take their name from Hitler's favorite composer. Get it straight. They're not big fans of Robert Wagner. It's the Wagner Group.
Organization. So basically, rather than have Russian military forces itself challenge us, there was a time where U.S. military forces at our outpost of the Tomsk garrison were challenged not by the Russians themselves, but by mercenaries, Wagner operating alongside Iran proxies. So these are examples where the Russians maintain just enough distance to be able to deny, but it's clearly different elements of the Russian state challenging and testing the United States, both our commitment, our resolve, and then actually what we're doing in Syria and where we're willing to draw that line. And Iran is all about gray zone activities, not just in Syria, across the region. Mike, I'll leave it to you to talk more about Iran.
Hold on one second. Let's see if she continues on with this. And then I think there's
have come out of Washington in a rather unplanned manner about whether or not the U.S. military is staying. Mike and I have argued recently that the other forms of leverage remain compelling if resourced effectively.
Okay, so this is where they got it from. And this is right after Trump pulled our people out. That's what she's referencing. Stuff happening in she even, I think, even references at one point, a house of a certain color.
And prioritized at the highest levels of the U.S. government. So if we're going to hold the line on the diplomatic isolation, on moving forward with the economic sanctions architecture, and holding the line on reconstruction aid, perhaps those things could still be compelling, because in our view, what our assessment was of the conflict has not changed. The conflict is not over. It's entering a new phase. ISIS is certainly not defeated, no matter what you hear from certain houses of a certain color here.
Right. I totally defeated ISIS. That's what she's talking about.
D.C. The Russians very much remain committed to Bashar.
Thanks, McNally. Glad to do it.
Al-Assad, as do the Iranians. Refugees are not returning home, certainly not in a safe, voluntary, or dignified manner.
Isn't it weird how Jimmy just kind of leaves off this part with his other dickhead he was talking to? They just kind of avoid this part of the conversation. And the fact that this conversation is about Syria in the gray zone, meaning that there are a lot of competing interests. There's no black and white here. There's a lot of, flip-flopping control points. It is hard to work out if you're trying to be on the side of good in the area, what that means and what level that's in. And if you pull out of there entirely, you leave anybody who might be good at all to the effect of the worst in the area, if not the second worst or the third worst.
And international norms are still being smashed every day by the civilian protection issues taking place in Syria.
Great. Mike, we're going to go to you, and then a brief round.
Okay, and then I want to say she had this other, go back to her, so this was before, it might have been at the top of her last piece. Let me see this.
Last month's decisions and developments. We argued in our recommendation section that taken as a whole, even though the United States said there's limited appetite domestically here or on the Hill to match the level of resources or even diplomatic investment of the Iranians and the Russians in Syria, that the United States still had compelling forms of leverage on the table.
Okay, there it is. So they cut off the top of this entirely. Listen to what she's talking about. She's talking about our being there, and is our appetite to help these folks as strong as Iran and Russia's appetite to take the fucking place over, basically, and use the Assad regime as a sock puppet.
It states that there's limited appetite domestically here or on the Hill to match the level of resources or even diplomatic investment of the Iranians and the Russians in
Right. There's very limited appetite here to match the level of input from Iran and Russia together in the area. They are more committed than we are to monkeying around in Syria.
That the United States still had compelling forms of leverage on the table to shape an outcome that was more conducive and protective of U.S. interests. And we identified 4. So the first one was the 1/3 of Syrian territory.
Oh, by the way, when she says are protective of U.S. interests, the whole point of this report is, are there any U.S. interests? If there are, how do we maximize them? That's what the report is. So to the exclusion of the interests of everyone else, if we're going to be there, why? Right? What's in it for us to continue doing this, or what can we benefit, in terms of our allies, protecting them, whatever. If we're going to be there at all, is there something? And she's saying yes. If they didn't find anything, the answer would be, we didn't find any. There is no strategic importance to us controlling this area. We're not going to be able to push it in one direction or another. We can't protect these people forever, so we can't protect them at all. And it's probably best for us to get out of this area and cede that territory in some ways, not have a base there, not have our troops in harm's way, have them in Iraq or something like that, so it doesn't spill over into areas where we do have interest. Gotcha? Okay.
Territory that was owned via the U.S. military with its local partner, the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now, this was a light footprint on the U.S. military, only about 1,000 troops over the course of the Syria Study Group's report. And then
during the report, and again, this goes to that whole Ed Kemper thing that I talked to you guys about. Like, it seems to me everything you've learned about serial killers comes from the ones you've been able to catch. Okay, everything she's talking about is only from and regard to a report written about the strategic interests of the United States, if they exist, why they exist, and what we can do to maximize them. Not the rest of the U.S.'s interests, or whether or not Syria, is in our, has other partnerships that can handle it. Okay.
Tens of thousands of forces, both Kurdish and Arab, under the Syrian Democratic Forces. And that
10,000. Well, we have 900 people there. They have tens of thousands.
That 1/3 of Syria is the resource-rich. It's the economic powerhouse of Syria. So where the hydrocarbons are, which obviously is very much in the public debate here in Washington these days, as well as
because Trump was saying we should keep the oil.
The agricultural powerhouse. But we argued that it wasn't just about this 1/3 of Syrian territory that the U.S. military and our military presence owned, both to fight ISIS and also as leverage for affecting the overall political process for the broader Syrian conflict.
You see that? Owned for fighting ISIS and affecting the overall conflict in Syria, meaning the civil war that had been going on for a long time.
There were 3 other areas of leverage. One is political and diplomatic isolation of the Assad regime. This is, in our assessment, one of Russia's goals in the Middle East, is the propaganda win for Russia of rehabilitating Assad on the international stage.
And fast forward to now, not exactly how it worked out.
Of basically forcing the international community to normalize him and welcome him back in without any behavioral changes.
Didn't work out.
So holding the
again, this is in 2019.
Line on diplomatic isolation, preventing embassies from going back into Damascus. 2 is the economic sanctions architecture. So some of this is part of the maximum pressure campaign of the Trump administration on Iran, but there's a whole suite of both executive and congressional sanctions on Syria and Bashar al-Assad, both for human rights abuses in Syria and to the backers of Assad for their activities in support of him in Syria. And 3 was reconstruction aid. So the United States remains the overall largest single donor of humanitarian aid to Syrians both inside Syria and refugees outside of Syria.
Now, why is it that Jimmy didn't play that part? Why wasn't that the part he pulled?
Of humanitarian aid.
Hold on, let me back it up even further.
So the United States remains the overall largest single donor of humanitarian aid to Syrians both inside Syria and refugees outside of Syria. And there was some stabilization assistance in the part of Syria that was liberated from ISIS and controlled via the Syrian Democratic Forces in northern eastern Syria.
See, controlled versus owned. Again, owned is responsibility, controlled is militaristic. We can say that about them. We can't say it about us because We're not there to control it. We own the responsibility, good and bad, for what happens in that territory.
The rest of Syria, though, is rubble. And what the Russians want and what Assad wants is economic reconstruction. And that is something that the United States can basically hold a card on via the international financial institutions and our cooperation with the Europeans. So we argue that absent behavioral changes by the Assad regime, we should hold the line on preventing reconstruction aid and technical expertise from going.
And that would be, just to clarify, if we're going to give you money to rebuild, bus and train stations and sewer treatment plants and energy parts of your grid, we're not going to do it while you're building shit like this. This, again, is the Sednaya prison. If you've got money for this, you don't need our money to build railroad tracks and stations. Does that make sense? Chat room, you get me? You feeling me? I know there's a delay in it or whatever, but just kind of important there. But do you think it's odd at all that Jimmy didn't point out the fact that the U.S. is it makes our biggest investment, by the way, not just in terms of our military, what we have there, but the most money we put into Syria is helping refugees both inside and outside the country and people who are displaced, especially in that part of the country, through, by the way, the Syrian Democratic Forces. That's been ongoing. It's also why these guys eventually were able to live long enough to make their way to Aleppo.
Back into Syria. So now in the past month, it looked like one of the most compelling forms of leverage, which was the U.S. military presence, was taken off the table quite fast.
That's when Trump pulled the people out. That's what she's talking about.
Now, as of this morning, the news suggests that maybe that military presence will stay for some period of time.
Yeah, turned out he was bullshitting largely.
And the problem with this is
and he just gave 2 bases to Russia, by the way, both of which were used to transport arms to Hezbollah during their attacks on Israel. So, Mr. Trump, I'm the best friend Israel ever had. Just
no matter what the U.S. military presence is or isn't, at this point, a lot of the PR damage is done. So if you're trying to get allies...
And this goes into whether or not people trust us again and all that shit. So I feel like that wraps that conversation up and you guys get the picture. But it is in the conversation about Syria and all this stuff and what Jimmy is pushing and I don't know, his fucking guest or whatever. Let me try and make it as simple as I can. It's Russian propaganda. America bad because they fucked Russia's plan in Syria. We were always there fucking with Russia's plan because destabilization and giving it to Iran was ultimately their plan. Assad's days were numbered. Eventually, he had already bought property in Moscow. His family was going to move there after the place fell to the Iranians. That was going to be the sacrificial part of it. Or they'd put somebody, puppet, son of his in charge of it, but everybody would bug the fuck out. At some point in the next decade, it just all fell too quickly, and they just went there anyways. So the primary thing is that this is about the strategic alliance between Russia and Iran, and they got fucked. That's why Jimmy's mad. That's why Jimmy's guest is talking the same shit we hear from all the tankies that are oh my God, the CCP is so amazing. Look at all the hospitals they built during COVID. And those are prisons. First of all, hospitals, unless you're talking about an insane asylum or a mental institution, who can tell the difference, don't have bars on the windows and don't have the food tray slot where you can slide the food on the floor. That's a jail. That is, if anything, that's a quarantine ward, but it's not a hospital. You get out if you survive. It's not about treatment. That's what they were building. And they built a lot of them. But these guys are look at the hospitals. And they just, because they see white walls going up and they're clap, clap, clap. And then as soon as they start putting the fucking doors on things, people are anyways, over here, same shit. Same shit. We need to be the world's EMT, not its police. We are. It just doesn't get as much attention because it doesn't make as much noise. We've been doing airdrops into Gaza of food and supplies almost the entire time, basically from like October 12th. We are. Just nobody cares. It's not sexy. It's fucking boring compared to like when we shock and awe shit. So for the record, just putting that out there. Now, where do we go next? Because there's so much. I gotta say, this one's semi-local, and I don't think it's even that long. So this next video, it's Wayne Allen Rutt from the Rutt Reaction. He's here in Las Vegas, not far from me, I assume. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, by the way. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks, and you can become a member on YouTube. That really helps. And you can subscribe on Twitch. Really helps as well. So this dickhead, we've seen him before or whatever. But this is how Big Brother destroys conservatives. Do fucking tell. Is it a recipe so we can recreate it, or... Because I don't think this is very long, and if it is, I'll bug out. But I need to know what the fuck he's whining about. It's 3 minutes. We'll be okay. Jesus. And by the way, I guess congratulations. This just doesn't. It just starts. That's the 0 point on it. So does your editor hate you?
Look, government tries to destroy people all the time, and it doesn't matter if you're ever found guilty. Just the insinuation ruins your reputation.
Uh-oh. No, I don't think you can insinuate that someone's, snazzy, well-dressed, and smart. That insinuation has been chasing me all over the globe my entire life. I don't think it's the act of insinuation. It might be what they actually are insinuating that you do. They are, if they're not implying that you're a creepy, gropey prick of some sort, they allow for the inference thereof.
And the expense and the legal bills, or in my case, the legal bills and the accounting bills are enough to destroy you and wipe you off the face of the earth.
Why would the accounting bills? What, did you make more money when you were being tried for... What do you... All right, I have no idea what the fuck
this is how Big Brother destroys conservatives. They never do it to liberals, ever. And
I'm sorry. Well, he's almost right. I will say this, that when Big Brother, whoever the fuck that is, destroys someone who was previously liberal, most of us agree that they've lost their liberal card. It's how we feel about the Epstein files. If somebody shows up on the Epstein files and we used to like them, fuck them, bye. I thought you were liberal. You're not. So you can't destroy liberals because they stop being liberal when they get busted. Like Menendez, for example. Any Democrat who gets busted for that shit, we're like, okay, if they're guilty, fuck them.
I just hope the tables are turned. I don't want revenge. I want justice. And I hope President Trump goes after everyone, the J6 committee, Liz Cheney, all the people involved in framing the January 6ers, all the people that framed...
Framing them? Motherfucker, these assholes took pictures of themselves shitting in the rotunda and stealing stuff and framed it and hung it on their wall. They filmed themselves. Fuck the Jan 6ers. It's like... there's probably at least 1,500 of them that should be in jail, and there's only a couple of hundred that actually are seeing any major jail time because they filmed themselves attacking police officers or firing a gun in the air. Eat shit. Fuck them.
President Trump.
And by the way, if you let them out, the first thing they're going to do is go kill whoever snitched on them. Because these are the hardcore ones. These are the ones who like spit at the judge and flipped out and said, I'm not telling you anything, and like they won't wear their COVID mask and they spit on fucking guards.
Trump, Fannie Willis, Aaron, what's his name? Alvin Bragg,
Aaron Bragg. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you go after the wrong person. Who cares?
Jack Smith. I hope every one of them winds up in prison for years to come. I hope for the rest of their lives. I hope in Guantanamo.
Oh, yeah. Jack Smith needs to be in Guantanamo because he was assigned a job.
All terrible people. They're all evil people. And I mentioned this on my weekend show.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't have to tell us. We all saw that. You guys watched the weekend show, right? I mean, it's you never miss it.
America's Top 10 Countdown, that I'm doing a future show about the top 10 most evil people in the deep state and the DC swamp who President Trump should put in prison. And I started off with a list of the ones I believe are in the top 10, and it came.
So it's your top 10 list, and so it's the people you believe should be on the the list you made. I'm sure you had little asterisks next to their name so that people could go to your website and you could have associated evidence as to why they belong into this fucking
about
town.
To 10. So I said, maybe we should use your ideas. Maybe you've got better ideas than me to replace some of mine.
He's okay. He's farming interaction.
Or maybe I should do a top 20. Maybe.
Yeah, top 22, 27, 32. Top 7. Just shave it down. I think less is more.
I should do a top 50 and do 5 shows in a row of top.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, then you could just pre-tape them and go on vacation.
Tens. But I asked you to give me some ideas, and literally hundreds of you sent in emails with your ideas, and I'll do the same thing on the root.
Literally all of your viewers.
Reaction.
212 people sent in emails, and that was it.
Whoever your top 10 in the DC swamp and the deep state, the traitors that have tried to destroy our country and have tried to destroy President Trump and destroy.
Yeah, I guess, do they all have to be elected officials, or do they just need to, how long do they have to have spent in D.C. themselves? Is visiting enough, or
our MAGA,
do they have to have like a timeshare? Or?
Agenda. These are terrible people. Who are they? Let's list them on my future show, and I want your advice and input. Email me, wayneroot@gmail.com.
Yeah, no.
Wayne Root.
I was promised to find out that I would be able to find out how Big Brother destroys conservatives. And so far, we're 2 minutes into this 3-minute video, and I haven't learned any other techniques than I already have.
At gmail.com. Send me your ideas. The deep state, the DC swamp, all the globalists.
Wayneroot? That looks like Wayneroot. I'm sorry. I know it's supposed to be Wayne Root. It looks like Wienerroot. Wayneroot. I'm Wayneroot.
All the bad people have tried to ruin our country.
Also, you don't have a website? You can't do your straight up... Can't just use the... You don't have Wayneroot at wayneroot.com, so it's Wayneroot at wayneroot.com.
Some names off the top of my head. Barack Obama. Of course, Joe Biden and the Biden crime family. Obama and the Obama crime family. Kamala and the Kamala crime family.
Okay, so these are addendums. I mean, I'm just going to say that in those 3, there's more than 50 people. I'm going to need to say something called evidence if the United States is going to remain the country we all know and love.
John Kerry and the John Kerry crime family.
Yes, the ketchup mafia.
To name a few. Who else can I name? I certainly would throw in Dr. Fauci right at the top of the list. I might make him number 1. Jack Smith and of course, all the prosecutors. Fannie Willis, Alvin Bragg, who came after Trump. George Soros comes to mind. Klaus Schwab.
Sorry, George Soros comes to mind. You do realize that Trump hired an ex-employee of his, and one of his mentees who's gay and has kids to be his Secretary of the Treasury.
Schwab of the World Economic Forum. Bill Gates comes to mind. All the vaccinators.
Also, what crime did Klaus Schwab commit in the United States? I don't know if he committed anywhere at all, but what's our jurisdiction? I'm worried about standing.
Who tried to destroy our population with vaccines and murder us and cover up all the big pharma executives, all the people at the
Oh, you mean like the big pharma executives that just met with RFK Jr. and Trump at Mar-a-Lago? Those guys that he had dinner with? He hasn't had dinner with you, has he? Oh, Wayne, that's what it is, isn't it? He had dinner with them. He didn't have dinner with you. You're actually talking about, with rare exception, he used to hang out with Fauci all the time. I don't know that he's ever spent any private time with Fonnie Willis, or Jack Smith for that matter. But everybody else he's had multiple dinners with.
Top of FEMA that have left those people in North Carolina to freeze. How disgusting. It's freezing cold out, and they've got them in tents with no heaters. They're going to die of freezing. And they're
Can you die of freezing? I mean, my mom talks like that's possible all the time, but even in the summer,
going to die
at a movie theater
of starvation. They're going to die of depression.
Really? Well, I mean, it is freezing and having nothing to eat is a bummer. Yeah, well, that'll bum you out.
Our country is filled with deep state, DC swamp, traitor, scumbags, and someone's got to put them in prison. Send me your list.
Well, are they DC traitor swamp scumbags if they are locally hired to work for FEMA in the Carolinas? I'm just curious. I mean, because it seems like how about this? I guess we could get rid of the entire problem, according to you, if we just wait till Trump is sworn in and nuke the place from orbit. Just, yeah, if they're all DC scumbag swampers, they can't leave much. I mean, have you ever seen a crocodile or an alligator end up in the desert? They always got to stay a little bit close to the swamp, right? So just, I say we take it off, nuke it from orbit.
SwayneRoot@gmail.com.
God, that's dumb. Shit. It's aggravating. How deep does it go? I don't know. Leaks China's secret shadow meeting for the final battle over world media control. Do tell. Edge of Wonder. Does anybody know this is 53 people are watching this. It must be the shit. It's going to start. Oh, it hasn't started yet. Son of a bitch. No, yeah, it hasn't started. Yeah. There's people just waiting. It's going to be amazing. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Trump, this is Little Boy Reads from Laptop, which is one of our favorite shows. Oh, god damn. I just noticed it. I'm sorry. Whew. Where's my mouse? Shit, I don't even want to look up. Ouch. Ben, what are you doing? Do you not know the nunt warning rule? How do you not know, man? God damn, that is the worst I've ever seen it. That is fucking obscene. I don't even, like, I think I have to do the video just because I can't bring myself to look at the fucking thumbnail anymore. Yikes. It burns the eyes. Jesus Christ. Shit. All right, well,
folks, as you can...
All right, I'm going to roll out of this. At least we have to just look at his dipshit face. Whoa. And facts don't care about your feelings. That's all, like, yeah, he's part of the fuck your feelings crowd. And yet he's always getting his fifis hurt. It's very strange. I don't know why this is. But according to them, Trump is interested in winning, not revenge, because he said so, and then he went on a rant in his Kristen Welker interview where he absolutely said he wanted people to go to jail. This is stupid.
See, Joe Biden has completely receded from the world stage. He is no longer...
He literally just got back from Africa, and today he gave a speech on his economic theory and why we have the strongest economy ever.
Present on the world stage. No one cares about him. He's completely absent. Donald Trump is, for all intents and purposes, already the president of the United States.
Cool. So I guess whatever happens internationally, Russia's reaction and all this stuff, I guess so he's responsible for Assad's toppling. Is that where you're going to go?
So over the weekend, Notre Dame was reopened. There's a big ceremony in Paris.
Yeah, Joe Biden went.
Paris. Obviously, there's a major fire there a couple of years ago, and it was rebuilt beautifully, by the way. I mean, it looks just phenomenal. And as CNN reports, the Notre Dame...
Is it... Sorry, I'm sorry. Ben Shapiro, or, a.k.a. Somebody left Jesse Waters in a dryer. You're really going to quote CNN as a reliable news source? How dare you, sir? That is the mainstream media, the lamestream media, if I do say so. That is liberal. That is the propaganda arm of the DNC, and you're going to quote from CNN?
Cathedral provided the luminous backdrop for President-elect Donald Trump's return to the geopolitical stage on Saturday when French officials put an ornate line under the 5-year project to restore the soaring landmark with a reopening ceremony featuring dozens of world leaders.
Just in case you guys are like, you've ever been to like CNN.com and you're like, I don't have time to read this. Can anybody find the most annoying book on tape voice that's ever existed to chirp his way through this story on my behalf?
Macron held a private meeting with Trump as well as Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Macron himself is still trying to uphold his own government. Here's some of the video of President Trump arriving and being president because Joe Biden did not show up.
Yeah, you do realize nothing materially happened at the reopening of Notre Dame. Yep, Biden is busy actually presidenting.
I mean, it's gorgeous, by the way. I mean, it looks great.
Joe Biden.
They've lit it all up.
Where's Melania? Hashtag where's Melania?
Up. You can see Trump is there between them.
In case there's another fire, they have a bunch of guys standing there. It's good. I think that's smart. I think they've now assigned firemen to all the services, which is good.
Macron's Joe Biden showed up.
You know, I blame is all the French smoking. I don't know what the problem is. You know, you got that thing right there, and you know, I don't know what it's a stone building. I don't know why the wood, the pews, and if you don't believe me, that all the important words in the English language are French. You know, pew. You think the Germans came up with pew? No, we came up with pew. Okay, you sit on a pew, you learn on a pew, you pray on a pew. That is a pew prayer, a praying pew? Eh?
But Joe apparently didn't feel like traveling. He stayed in the United States.
Well, we had to get one president over there who would talk to folks like they're real human beings, because the next guy, the chances of the next guy making this trip, pretty slim. Pretty slim.
There are a bunch of memes that were very funny of Jill talking to Donald Trump, making pretty clear that she probably voted for him. Meanwhile, President Trump, again, he's already the incoming president. It's
Oh, I see. That's where the fuck your feelings crowd doesn't understand that people can be polite.
Fascinating to see the positions that he's taking because they are quite sane. They are quite sane. For all the talk about he's going to be like a radical, crazy...
Oh, you mean he's reversing on a bunch of shit? You mean flip-flopping? Right, sure.
The positions he's taking are very, very sane. So, for example...
Yeah, they're very sane. Very sane. Like rounding up all illegal immigrants in the country and having them out of the country because you have to by the end of his first term.
President Trump did an interview over the weekend, and he was...
Oh, yeah, I know. I covered the whole thing.
He was asked about NATO. And his answer was not, we're pulling out of NATO. He was with Meet the Press and Kristen Welker. It wasn't, we're pulling out of NATO. It was, everybody pays their bills, or we'll pull out of NATO, which is a way of using leverage. As I've said about President Trump, the man is a master of leverage. It is what he does.
No, master of leverage means you would use the, leverage that you have. This is the American government, not his leverage. This is our strategic interests in the future.
He's done it in all of his business deals. He got...
Really? Like Trump Steaks and Taj Mahal and Trump University and Trump Water and Trump Vodka and Trump Airlines and Trump Football. The business relationships he had with his first and second wives and clearly he has with his third one.
Famous on TV by using leverage. This is what he does.
No, he wasn't. Producers made that shit up. You don't actually think The Apprentice was real, do you? That's adorable.
Will the United States stay in NATO while you're in office?
In where?
NATO. Do you commit that the United States will remain a member of NATO while you're in office?
Again, they have to pay their bills. If they pay their bills, absolutely.
But not if they don't pay their bills.
But NATO's taking advantage of us because we were look, two things. Number one, they take advantage of us on trade, meaning the European nations, okay, like terrible.
Yeah, not all European nations are in NATO, shithead.
They don't take our cars.
Yeah, so again, if countries can't work out a deal with the Czech Republic, sorry, hold on one second. I don't even think. Yeah, let me make sure that they're not, so I can. Republic, NATO membership. I think they ended up. Yeah, they joined in '99. Bad example. Which ones aren't? Romania, Slovakia. Northern Ireland, French Algeria. Yeah. So Georgia, for example. Georgia pushes back on Russia, isn't a member of NATO, and we have they do natural gas, for example, and we have an issue with them in trade. Back and forth about natural gas going to Europe, and they're competing with us or something. So we're going to slam NATO because of something Georgia does in trade with us. Because do you think this motherfucker knows that Georgia is, I mean, they're an aspiring member, but do you think that he knows that they're not in NATO, except for the fact that he probably thinks they're still a part of Russia?
They don't take our food product. They don't take anything. They think it's a disgrace. And on top,
we buy more of their stuff than they buy of ours.
On top of that, we defend them. So it's a double whammy. So let me just tell you, I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. I said,
they don't put it into NATO any more than our money goes into Ukraine. 90% of the money spent on Ukraine is spent in the United States, in red states, making arms that are sent there.
To the countries, I'm not going to protect you unless you pay. And they started paying. And that amounted to more than $600 billion. That's a big thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be fighting. They wouldn't have any money to fight. If they're paying.
Yeah, they would. It's again, they have their own militaries. And Ukraine's not in NATO.
Paying their bills, and if I think they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely. I'd stay with NATO.
But if not, you would consider the possibility of
absolutely,
getting
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so again, he's saying that as leverage. He's not saying I'm going to leave NATO. He's saying pay up.
He's also putting this amorphous, if I think they're being unfair. Fuck does that mean? Life isn't fair, asshole. Fuck your feelings.
Why are we footing your bills? And
you're not footing our bills. You aren't. It's their commitment to how much of their budget they put towards military in their own countries in case something happens. We spend more on NATO stuff because we are like it takes more to send our Navy and our Air Force over there for exercises and the like.
That's good. We want strong allies. Strong allies are good for the United States. Them paying for their own defense is good for them and good for the United States. Why should we fight their battles? They should fight their own battles. And all it requires is them spending a little bit more of their GDP on defense. I have to tell you about these close friends of mine who started a family business during COVID. It is very cool what they have done.
The product placement this early? What is this, Midas Touch?
Their stores include licorice.com, pretzels.com, caramel.
I'm just, no. Fuck off.
He says, listen, I'm using tariffs as leverage. Everyone who keeps pretending that he's going to sink the American economy out of just generalized love for tariffs, that's not why he's using tariffs.
It doesn't matter. You're either willing to pull the trigger or you aren't. If it's just, I'm using these for leverage, then everybody can either call your bluff because you're not going to do it, or if you do it, it's going to have the impact everybody else is saying. And it's a game of chicken. And on smaller countries especially, they don't, in a lot of cases, they don't need us the way we need them. As far as sales go, it has a much bigger like strategic and financial impact on us. Believe me, China can come, or like France can come up with their own cheese.
Tariffs. I have stopped wars with tariffs.
No, he has not.
By saying, you guys want to fight, it's great, but both of you are going to pay tariffs to the United States.
Also, this is just fucking gibberish. Cite one fucking thing. What are you going to do? Embarrass two countries that were going to go to war?
100%. And
like who? Kristen Welker, why? Say who? Who the fuck are you talking about? Do you think Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Slovenia we're gonna like dust off rifles and go back for each other. Like, get the fuck out of here.
They have many purposes, tariffs, if properly used. I don't say you use them like a madman. I say properly used.
No, you don't. And a blanket tariff on Canada because of shit going on at the southern border that's the same as the one you would put on Mexico is fucked up. Also, somebody explain to me why the USMCA it didn't solve all this problem when it was the greatest trade deal in history.
Properly used. Okay. Then he was asked by...
Also, define properly used, dum-dum.
Kristen Welker about Kash Patel at the head of the FBI. Would he militarize Kash Patel against his enemies? And here's his answer.
He doesn't have to.
Is it your expectation, though, that Kash Patel will pursue investigations against your political enemies?
No, I don't think so.
Do you want to see that happen?
If they were crooked, if they did something wrong, if they have broken the law, probably. They went after me, they went after me and I did nothing wrong.
Well, let me ask you this. You said President Biden, quote, that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. You said that
Where
during
did I say that?
The campaign.
Where?
You said that on Truth Social, June 12th, 2023.
Yeah. Dude, do you think people don't know that you're a lying piece of shit and you pretend everything is fake news? Let me... news media, you're going to need to learn this for the next 4 fucking years. Don't wait to reference later in the show. You are going to have to confront him like this directly to him. You're going to have it in the folder right next to the fucking question. You said this, you said this, you said this. We'll play a tape and you can watch it and then we'll come back. Because you don't, by the way, that tape doesn't even have to be, we'll play this and then we'll let you, here's that thing just in case you need a refresher. And then you don't even have to play it on the fucking show. You can go, well, this is a clip we played or we play it later. Just have it. Always have it. And you've got to be able to reference it at the time. And I would argue that her mistake in this question was, don't just say you said this. Say on, and I'm going to quote you from this and I want to ask you about it. You said this. Now, why would people feel afterward? Like after you've already quoted it. If you're going to hit him with this shit, don't give it. It's not optional anymore. Yeah, Casey Hunt did that for RFK's anti-vax stuff. Absolutely.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Are you going to do that? Are you going to go after Joe Biden?
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful.
He knows there's nothing there. What he's saying is he ran on their criminality, but he knows they don't have anything. He talked to fucking Comer for a year. They don't have anything. And if they take it to court, they'll lose. That's why. He's walking it back because it was always a lie. He's not moderating because he's coming to his fucking senses.
Retribution will be through success. If we can make this country successful, that would be that would be such a great achievement. Bring it back.
Back to what? During COVID?
So again, President Trump's metric is winning. It is not actually things like revenge. Even on immigration. President Trump, he says, listen, if we have families of illegal immigrants and we...
Yeah, wait. We watched this whole fucking thing. Right? We watched that whole interview. And Trump's thing was like, you have to get rid of everybody. And if there's a family, the citizens will have to, if they want to be with their family, they got to leave. We're not going to do anything that allows those folks to stay because they have family in the country. Fuck them. If you want to visit them, you got to leave with them. Okay? That we watched that, and that he's going to get rid of all of them within 4 years. Now, he's already going to do a magic trick on day one, which is there's not 20 million. There's close to 10.3. It's one of the lowest levels it's been, actually, of the number of illegal aliens and undocumented workers and asylum people that won't clear the threshold for asylum. It's like the lowest number it's been in forever. So he can just magically go, we got rid of 10 million because they never fucking existed. But I can't wait. We all watched this together. You guys know yesterday's show. I want to fucking see this dipshit pretend that he's moderating.
Are going to deport them, then they have a choice. They can either leave together or they can be separated. I mean, that is, in fact, how law enforcement works. But he's asked about the Dreamers. Okay, these would be people who were brought here as minors. Brought here.
Right. That he could have fixed when he was president last time. That he ran against with his people. He's flip-flopping on it. Yeah, we all watched it. And he's going to need more Democratic votes to get this across the finish line than Republicans.
2 years old by legal immigrant parents and have lived their entire lives in the United States.
Because they're middle-aged now.
Here's his answer. Does this sound like somebody who's an extremist to you?
We have to do something about the Dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. They don't even speak the language of their country.
Yeah, he's quoting Democrats, stupid.
And yes, we're going to do something about the Dreamers.
What does that mean? What are you going to do?
I will work with the...
And by the way, the reason he says later in this section exactly why. They have businesses. Some of them have small businesses. Some of them have big businesses. That's what he's talking about.
Democrats on a plan, and if we can come up with a plan, but the Democrats
already have one.
Made it very, very difficult to do anything.
How's that? How'd they make it very, very difficult? What did they put together a bill that does it? And they were going to make you sign it last time? Or they made it difficult for the maggots in your party because you had control of the House to pass it?
Republicans are very open to the Dreamers. The Dreamers, we're talking many years ago, they were brought into this country. Many years ago.
Then why didn't you fix it when you were president the first fucking time?
Some of them are no longer young people. And in many cases, they become successful. They have great jobs. In some cases, they have small businesses. Some cases, they might have large businesses.
That's what he's talking about. Okay, so he's had investors, crypto bros, folks like that who were Dreamers or have one in their family that talk to him at Mar-a-Lago. That's what this is about. And you can't get rid of the ones he doesn't give a shit about without getting rid of these guys because they're in the same age range. They're in the same boat legally. And so you got to let them all stay. And it's not even that big a number. And it also looks like he's being magnanimous in this situation while he's brooming, allegedly 20 million people. The Republicans, he's going to win votes over in the Freedom Caucus and that crowd to do this by deporting, multiple millions of people in places like Texas and other places.
And we're going to have to,
in theory, or the promise to do it. I don't even know if he'll actually do it. Again, it's a lot of noise.
To do something with them. And
you want them to be able to stay. That's what you're saying.
I do.
Okay.
I want to be able to work something out. And it should have been able to be worked out over the last 3 or 4 years.
Now, by the way, this is the thing about pragmatic Trump. Now, a lot of his followers right now are probably screaming at their TVs or phones hearing President Trump say this. President Trump is pragmatic. And President Trump is like...
Yeah, that's a great term. It's exactly. He's a pragmatic pussy grabber. He probably should have not been friends with Jeffrey Epstein 2 weeks after he met him, but he's a pragmatist.
Nixon going to China. Only Trump could get away with saying this publicly, but again, Trump is a pragmatist. He understands that realistically speaking, he is not going to move toward deporting millions of people who got here as 2-year-olds. He's going to focus on criminals first, then he's going to focus on the people who recently got here. That's going to be the idea. He was asked about restrictions on abortion pills. He says, listen, it's not the federal government's job. And the attempt to paint him as some sort of right-wing extremist radical who's going to cram down fascism on the country, I'm going to need some evidence, guys.
Cool. You'll see it once he's in.
Will you restrict the availability of abortion pills when...
By the way, does anybody think that Ben is going to play a clip of him talking about his concepts of a plan for health care?
You're in office.
Probably. I'll probably stay with exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years, and the answer is no.
Probably. Don't worry about it, ladies. You probably won't go to jail. Probably. You know, that's what you want to hear. That's leadership. Is there a word? I mean, I've been partly arguing, and I think he would argue the same, is that I think we need to take down all those faces on Mount Rushmore and just put the word probably there. That'll do it. that's you know, swing, pank, my lord. The Mongols come from the east, and they have allied with the French. Shall we fight back against them? We are fighting to the last man, but we have only a few resources. Which way should we go? Well, should probably you should probably fight back. Probably, my liege. Yeah. Just fight. Should we fight back? Probably. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Tell you what, right out there. Can somebody get me a pen and paper? Yeah, okay. Right out there, and I'll probably send you a note that tells you what to do. Probably. But sir, what do I tell the villagers and those forces allied with us? They will not know which side they should fight on if we do not give them some sort of reassurance. Well, just tell them I said we'll probably work something out. Probably. You can go now. Are you sure? And see. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You commit to that.
Well, I commit. I mean, do things change? I think they change. I hate to go on shows like Joe Biden. I'm not going to give my son a pardon. I will not, under any circumstances, give him a pardon. I watched this, and I always knew he was going to give him a pardon, and so I don't like putting myself in a position like that. So things do change, but I don't think it's going to change at all.
Well, here's the thing. Would you sign it? That shouldn't change. If you're materially against it, why would that change? Oh, because you're bullshitting and you don't even know what you're talking about. And you'll just do whatever people tell you to do. I agree, Grace.
Okay, again, like, this is not an extremist guy.
Yeah, it's not an extremist guy. Ladies, simmer down, okay? He's not extreme. You're extremely annoying with your whining about, well, will I have rights or won't I? What happens to me when I get an ectopic pregnancy? What if I'm miscarrying? Blah, 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 blah.
For all the talk about how Trump's going to be, he's not. He's actually really, really not. It's all the scare tactics.
Well, he's probably not. Probably. Sorry, I'm not saying it with the force it deserves. Probably. It's a big, beautiful, powerful probably.
You've been hearing for years and years. They're stupid and they're wrong. Are you tired of the lies?
I'm tired of you being in your childhood bedroom or a mock-up of it at Glenn Beck's house. Ben, if Glenn Beck has you prisoner in his weird little shop of horrors, well, we won't be able to see you blink under those giant eyebrows or whatever. Pull out a plank of wood.
The twist of the mainstream media talking points?
Oh, the twisted. Oh, I hate it so much that fuck you. These are the defenses, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I don't know if you know this, but folks, I am miserable. I don't know how else to tell you. I didn't think I was. I was under the impression that I wasn't miserable, but apparently I'm miserable because I'm part of the Biden-Harris faction, which sounds very Rebel Squadron, so I kind of like it, the Biden-Harris faction. They call me Faction Jackson. But apparently, Lana Douche thinks that the and this is the quote. Oh, get out of here! Hold on. theater mode.
Dana Loesch is a nationally syndicated.
It's pronounced Lana Douche. Dana Loesch, the Biden and Harris faction is miserable. Oh, miserable. I gotta say, I don't know. I gotta say, I think how's she look more miserable than me? You know what? In all fairness, might be Botox. We'll find out.
Radio host. All right, Dana, I want to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe he just was next to Kamala and just didn't see her. He is 82.
Yeah, but I've been seeing him do this, Jesse, and then Jill Biden do this also. And I think Jill's done this on a couple of occasions. The wife doesn't lie, right? If the wife is giving somebody the cold shoulder, you know how this is. That means that person is deserving of a cold shoulder. So that's where the truth lies in this.
They're literally sitting next to each other. They're at an event together. They've already spoken. They're waving to the people that are present.
I love watching.
He's the president of the United States.
These factions go at it with each other because both of these. Oh,
I see. Okay, so the case she's making is that the two factions are miserable because they don't get along. I got you. Okay, cool.
These factions are miserable. The Biden faction, the Harris faction, the people who are mad at Biden, they all.
The people who are mad at Biden. You mean Jesse's miserable? Because I don't know if you noticed this. He's always mad at Biden. It would be adorable if it wasn't so creepy.
Perfect little nest for themselves. And I think as, a Christmas gift, a holiday gift for all of us, Jesse, all the way up in...
Whoa. Just say Christmas gift. Holiday gift? What kind of woke bullshit is this? No, Lana Douche. You are not allowed to backpedal off of fucking Christmas with holiday. What do you mean? Kwanzaa? You're going to start taking that seriously? Is that what you do? Or is this, what kind of inclusive, horrible shit? I'm starting to think the deep state has taken over Fox.
Till January.
Yeah, Lana Douche is trying to cancel Christmas. That's exactly right, Turd Ferguson.
We get to enjoy watching this play out in front of America. So
yeah, you look like you're enjoying it. I will say, and I understand, as someone with full pouty lips, it's a little rude of me almost to say this. But those of you that, Lana, that feel the need to get multiple injections and puff your lips up, I don't understand. I think, not that I don't intend to age disgracefully. Believe me, I do. But there's something, you got that shellfish allergy upper lip thing. You've lost all definition. And look, some people were born with full kissable lips, and other people, I guess, live in a, what is this, a democratic hell? Where is she live from the DNC? What is this color scheme? I feel like, and he's wearing a blue tie. What is happening? They're being all woke. She's getting lip filler. What is going on here? But I'm just saying that if you don't have full lips, don't try to fake it. Just work with what you got. It's not the size, it's what you do with it. Except when it's the size. All right. Sorry, not sorry.
I feel really good about it.
I'm having the best time.
Yeah, you look like, you don't look at all like two people who used to work together on the high school television news program and everybody hated you and you're still doing it.
Covering the news, probably in the history of my TV career. Since this election, we've had so much fun covering Democrats. I don't think I can stop. Listening to Jon Stewart talk about whether they're going to help make the country stronger or just do the opposite. Like, what? How is that even a decision? The Democrats are struggling.
Your side attacked the Capitol, dum-dum. The idea is like, if you're going to help or not, you mean pick up the slack for him, help him pass bills because the Republicans won't? help him pass a budget because the Republicans won't? Yeah, sure they will. But they're going to want leverage. They're going to want a reason to vote for it. They're not going to just do it to bail him the fuck out. He wrote Art of the Deal through somebody else and never read it. But still. Right.
Struggling with.
Also, I don't know which clip he's talking about. And I got to say the running gag about the healthcare shooter that Stewart's been doing, no. Fuck that.
Well, the Democrats have to find an identity. They need to discover what is the soul of their party? What is
everybody gets to vote. And if you lose, you don't you don't change your message or your ideas. You just change your outreach. And I think we just have to be in a more defensive stance. That's just me.
the purpose of their party? Because it can't just be, well, we're not Trump or we don't like.
It isn't. We actually want everybody to vote. That's the primary. That's why Democratic versus Republican, they're more electoral college, Democrats. Then we also are big on the whole, like the primary elements of the Constitution, provide for the general welfare, that kind of stuff. You guys are big on pursuit of happiness because you don't have any responsibility for that, right? But provide for the general welfare is something that Democrats have attached themselves to, and rightly so, because if they didn't, there wouldn't be enough maggots alive in red states to vote Trump back in. And we're also not willing to let those people die just because they don't vote our way. I mean, again, you guys are the party of Zod.
Like Trump. They can't do that anymore, especially now. They can't do that anymore. And
I can. I'm awesome at it. What are you talking about? We're the party that brought you the Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS bill, the Chips and Science Act, STEM education, a myriad of social programs to get people to the starting line, not to the finish line. You're responsible in your life for getting to the finish line, but the starting line shouldn't be staggered by, your race or your gender or how, the religion you were raised in, right? That's what we're for. We also are better for the economy than Republicans are every fucking time. But we spend a lot of our effort cleaning up after the last Republican that shit the bed and not crowing about it. Now, I will say that the one thing that Democrats could learn more from people like me is the power of ego and that humble kills. Humility is a real thing. Humility in the face of something that is extraordinary has value. But acting or behaving as if you are humble simply for the social points, it's nothing, shucks, is very damaging when you're a political party that's trying to prove your track record. On a social level, it's great at dinner parties and that kind of stuff, and people just think you're affable and the like. I don't do that. I'm a complete egomaniac, but few can get away with it, hence, the charm. But the point is that Democrats need to be more defensive about defending those among us that do the actual work and more forward in claiming our victories. That's it. Because what we do is awesome. You know how we know? Try to undo it, motherfucker. Try to undo it. Try to undo the Chips and Science Act. We've seen you try to undo the ACA. Try to undo the infrastructure bill. What about the rescue package? Undo that shit? Cut all the green financing that went to like battery factories and all this shit in red districts? Do it. Try. I mean, look at Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Try to undo them. That's what we stand for. And we get it done. Meanwhile, Trump just does a bunch of fucking executive orders, and the next person that comes in goes, nope, 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 nope.
Can't find, whoever's coming up after Trump and say that they're just going to be anti that person either. They actually.
Oh, I won't. Don't worry. I'm running in 2028. Trust me. I'll be all about what I'm going to do.
Jesse, are now.
By that time, even I will have had enough of talking about Trumpdom.
Forced to come up with a platform, a policies all of their own, and it can't just be everything's fine, ignore what your eyes and your bank account are telling you. But I don't think that they are humble enough, and I
did not pre-watch this video. Humble enough. We're too humble, stupid.
don't think that they believe in themselves enough to actually do this. There is a scarcity of opportunity.
Oh, believe me.
Within the Democrat side. You can only put so many grifters at the table. They have grifted themselves out of influence in the American public. And that's what voters...
He's got a 1.5% margin. Simmer the fuck down. You have the smallest majority in the House in like 70 years. If the Republicans lose two people, if there's a heart attack and another lawsuit filed, Democrats could take over the House in the next 6 months, much less in the midterms. Good Lord.
Responded to, and until they...
Al, are you going to run for president? I'll run for something else in between, but I'm definitely going to run for president. Sure.
Get it right.
Jesus Christ. If Marianne Williamson can, monetize and drive part of the conversation, I used to work for that woman. I would say with, she would say for. But I don't have to win the first time. I could. But you think at this point, if we're going to have Trump twice, you think I'm going to be deferential to whatever happens? Why? Fuck that.
Jesse, and until they get something down on paper, something concrete, that will continue to happen.
And we will...
paper, something down on paper that's concrete. Oh, you mean like Project 2025 or Agenda 47? Gotcha.
Continue to cover them with the love and affection which we
Schadenfreude is a beautiful thing.
So truly hold for them. Dana Lash, good to see you. Click here to.
Let's see. Jasmine Crockett is VP. That'd be up to her. If she wants to run, that's up to her. I wouldn't presume that she won't be running too. But here's the thing. This is a thing on the Democratic side that I don't think, there was a little bit of it, I guess, on the Republican side because there can be there can be only one with Trump, right? That there's an element where on our side, we've been so deferential, be it to women or people of color, and I think that's right, and I think it's a great idea. Letting people have their spot at the table is totally cool. And if they win, great, right? But primarily, anybody who thinks they could be a benefit to the country and who represents the Democratic Party, wholeheartedly, that's who should run, right? And if you get swept out because Americans are going a different direction or they choose somebody else, it wasn't for the lack of trying and believing in yourself. That's it. But it can't be seen that anybody's running, if there's a rise in Latino voters, if somebody Latino runs for president, that doesn't mean they're trying to muscle out black or white people, right? Or Asians, or that for that matter, right? If we're going to be the party of open inclusion and diversity and all that kind of stuff, it means everybody gets to have their say. You don't exclude people automatically, no matter what. Nobody gets preferential treatment in that regard. You get to, rise to the highest height you possibly can. And nobody has the right to stop you based on those immutable characteristics. Right? That's okay. And I don't think anybody expects more than that. I think some people have been a little afraid of it over the time. And I think with Trump being in twice, I think we're past worrying about that. Hal Darling, we're in the last days. No one good will be able to take office. Don't worry about it, Julianne. I'll be king of rubble then. Don't worry about it. Just if it's just me in a leather jacket in a hot rod car going, you want some fuel? You follow me. It'll work. We'll figure it out. I think President Sparks works great. Come on. I don't know, be the first, and I think I should keep my hair, quite frankly. I'll look like the Witcher by then, but I also think that, like, you know, it's time for us to have our own Zaphod Beeblebrox. I like to think I am, Bobby. Thank you very much. So there we go. Because, again, I look at it in the number of people that have run for president on both sides over time that I'm like, this is fucking embarrassing that they're even up there. Be it Santorum or Tulsi Gabbard or somebody like that, right? So why the fuck not? Now, when we get closer to that, probably, you know, around the midterms, as I build this channel and build out what I'm doing, I may come to you all and go, hey guys, I need to start gathering signatures. Help me do this. And we'll build our own little, you know, if Lyndon LaRouche can gather signatures, sure, so can I, God damn it. If I win the presidency, will I still do my show? There'll be a version of it, yeah. Yeah. It'll be my, you know, we'll do these little fireside chats where I roast the politicians that are going against my agenda. But all the money that I raise will go to charity. It'll have to, you know, I'll divert it for the 4 years I'm in office to either a, you know, a lockbox, or I will, yes, I'll have a second head at that time. I'll get, you know, it'll go to a lockbox and I won't touch it so nobody can manipulate me based on super chats. Though you're willing to try now, it doesn't work. We've had it happen before. We had that, remember that Australian guy who like threw $500 worth of super chats at me because I was denying him his free speech rights, and he was like, read my statement. And I was like, nope. He's like, $100, like, read this. I'm like, nope. Like, you're denying me my free speech rights. And we're going, no, you're trying to buy your way to the front of the line. Piss off. I think that in and of itself, I'm going to use that as part of my record. I can't be bought. Well, I can't be bought. I can be purchased, which means I will do, you know, what it says on the tin if you hire me as a comedian or hire Nerd Halen. Yes, we'll have a cabinet of rock. Absolutely. I'll have a department of rock. Yeah. Department of Organic Rock, because it'll have to be live humans, so we can just call it, you know, the Doors. That said, move the moon. Oh, is the moon in the way? Sorry. That's new. How about I put it right here? That works. Ta-da! So, and by the way, Twitch people, I think right now it only grabs Twitch stuff. So if you throw in some emotes and throw some bits in there, it'll bounce the stuff around. I'm trying to make it work to do the other things, but it was just being a dick. Department of Bluegrass. We already had one of those 150 years ago, I think. And so, yeah, Department of Compassion. I mean, that would be the Secretary of Compassion in the Department of State. Yeah? Yes, King's X will play my inauguration. Absolutely. And they'll play Welcome to the Groove Machine. Yeah, I'm for it. Will I outlaw pot? Of course not. Department of State, yeah. Well, I certainly the people in the White House chef would have the easiest job in the world. I need 5 raw eggs and a steak every day. That's it. Yeah. Anyways, I adore you guys. I went over, but that's all right. That's all right. Thank you for watching. It's House Parks Megaworldwide. Don't forget tomorrow morning and afternoon show. Same with Thursday morning and afternoon show. Got some cool stuff for Friday this week. Do I give a hint? No. Nope. Not doing it. But yeah. Remember what happened to Cenk Uygur? Yeah. That's not going to happen to me. By the way, you know what happened to Cenk Uygur? Can I just say this? Where's Norm's thing? I'm going to put this up here. Right here. Whoops. No, it's here. There you go. Keep it real, Hal. Remember what happened to Cenk Uygur. Nothing happened to Cenk Uygur. Cenk Uygur was always this way. Cenk Uygur was always a fraudulent prick. I would argue that Anna might have been baited or black-pilled or whatever you want to call it, red-pilled. I forget what color the pills are. Nobody cares. But he didn't cave to MAGA. He was always that way. I mean, he did the same thing after Trump won last time. It was like, maybe we're going to have to kiss this dude's ass. They can play around the fringes and mock him a little bit, but they don't have to, you know, as long as it's within the margins, they'll be forgiven and that kind of stuff. But now he's just straight up sucking up to him. Oh, I mean, we talked about this with Cliff on Monday. It was always a fraud. The whole purpose of TYT is one thing. Diminish the Democratic vote. Drive down Democratic voting. That's it. Everything else is window dressing. You got to pretend to be on their side. You got to be, say all the right things, say all the right phrases and that kind of shit. And then as you get closer to the election over time, start going, well, but these aren't the people. These aren't the people. These aren't the people. Never defend the party. Never defend the person that's running. Fuck them, blah, blah, blah. And then right before go, well, gosh, people better vote or we're going to be screwed because the guy's a bad guy. The other guy's a bad guy because that's what the people who are voting want to hear. And then, but they don't do it because they're like, wait a minute, I thought you said Hillary Clinton was a fucking warmonger. Now you're going to tell me she's okay. Right? You know, and that I should vote for her, right? It's a game. It's always been a lie. Like, I think some people on our side of the aisle, from a media standpoint, make mistakes. They go down a rabbit hole of their own that they dug themselves, and they get stuck. You know, like when Tom Hartman was having on Richard Wolff, right? That happens. Whatever. And then eventually you're like, oh, okay, this guy's actually full of shit. Never mind. But it wasn't because Tom changed his beliefs, and Tom's a good guy, right? He just was following that line. Same thing with, you know, Jon Stewart it was always a perfunctory thing. He got mad about the PACT Act, but not enough to defend the people who actually got it passed. Because he would have to share the credit, which gives you an idea of the ego involved. And hey, you know, it's like they say, I think it was another Mindhunter line, right? Where they go, how do you become the president of the United States if you're a sociopath? And she goes, the psychologist that works with him goes, how do you become president of the United States if you aren't one? There's this, you know, how do you get to the front of the line? I will openly admit the power of my ego as a driving force. Not ashamed of it. It's necessary. Being in entertainment is you're ice skating uphill. You know, everybody talks to you about it's about rejection and, you know, it's the fear of rejection. That's bullshit. They're not rejecting you. You just don't fit that. Your key doesn't fit that lock. That's all. I got to take it fucking personally. There's too many moving parts. I couldn't even know if I was if they were like, we just don't like him. Well, then you're the problem, not me, right? You just don't like what I do for what you're doing. You have every right to do that. I don't care. But it's the people who, you know, have a faux humility about what they're doing, and then they show up on fucking TV every night telling you what to think, what to believe. Of course I have a big enough ego. It's like when people walk up to me after a show and go, well, that's just your opinion. Of course it is. What am I going to do? Get up on stage and tell you someone else's opinion? What the fuck are you talking about? Point being is that if you own your ego and you own your sense of worth about what you're doing, and you don't hide it behind false humility, which is what a lot of them do, then you're responsible for it. And that's the part I'm okay with. None of them want that responsibility. That's even Joe Rogan. That's a great example. Look at Joe Rogan. I'm just a dumb fucking shaved monkey, blah, blah, blah. I'm just a dumb pothead comedian, is what Jimmy Dore says, right? No. That you're just letting yourself off the hook. You can't tell everybody what to fucking think all the time, interpret the news for them, put stuff up and go, this is what's really happening, and I'm letting you know what's really fucking happening, and then go, well, what do I know? I'm just a dipshit, blah, blah, blah. No, you fucking own it. I own this. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's not because, why are you trusting me? I don't know. That's their way of, that's their ripcord. False humility is their ripcord. Fuck that. It's lazy. It's weak. And it's manipulative. That's them manipulating you. I stand by what I say, and if I'm wrong about something, over time, I fix it. But since most of what I'm talking about, the vast majority of it, that, you know, and I exclude maybe some of the jokes, is about my ethical alignment and my beliefs. We can disagree. You can think that I'm mistaken about my interpretation of stuff, but it's based on my ethics, and those aren't necessarily going to change over time. Why would they? It's why that whole Trump thing about, like, I don't know, maybe things can change about the, whether the federal government will limit, mifepristone or something like that. If it changes, the only thing that would be able to change for me is if it became dangerous and there was a better alternative. But that would mean that the service that it makes available would go away. Because my ethics about it would not change. Women should have that right. The real answer to that, I think, if Kristen Welker asked that question, would you outlaw mifepristone? You've said you wouldn't, or you said you would you do it? My answer would be, if something better came along and replaced it, and the alternative was so significantly better that it pointed out flaws, in the healthcare that it brought you, that it was dangerous or something, and we needed a replacement. As a matter of fact, I would put people in the NIH and the CDC on the task of finding a replacement for it, because women should have that right. That doesn't change. Ethically, morally, my belief that women should have control of their reproductive cycles and their bodies doesn't change. How you get there might. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, and I know that's a bit of a rant, as it were, but I don't know necessarily that... I know why. Hold on. I'll have to fix my... because I got my glow working again, I think. Or no, I moved it over here. Where did I move it? This guy. I got my glow working again, but I forgot to move my rant over. So I'll fix that for next time. I've been working behind the scenes. I'm still trying to, build on the show. I think the one thing my skill that I have to learn between now and the presidency would be how to work in teams better, delegation. I'm a very DIY human being, and I've always assumed that if it's my decision, it's my, my plan, I should carry it out. But that's not how things work on this kind of scale. And so I got to work on that, and I will. Right? See, we can all grow. Look at that. Look how far we've come. And I think the important thing is that... Thank you guys so much.
No, son, thank you very much. No, it gives me the wind, something terrible. Oh.
I'm your huckleberry.
Groovy.
I am your father, Luke. Give in to the dark side of the Force, you nap.
Well, it's a well-known fact, Sonny Jim, that there's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world, known as the Pentaveret, who run everything in the world, including the newspapers, and meet tri-annually at a secret country mansion in Colorado known as the Meadows.
So who's in this Pentaveret?
The Queen, the Vatican, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, and Colonel Sanders before he went tits up.